Have you ever wished for a simpler way to plot your mystery novel? Well, I'm about to make it a lot easier for you with one simple trick. All you have to do is think about your crime from the point of view of your villain and then ask yourself, what went wrong? What goes wrong with the villain's plan is often one of the primary drivers for the plot points in a mystery. Let's look at Death on the Nile by Agatha Christie. In this book, a pair of killers boards a steamer vessel sailing down the River Nile. Midway through the voyage, they eliminate Lynette Doyle, beautiful newlywed and heiress to millions. What goes wrong with their plan? Well, Lynette's maid, Louise, happens to go out on the deck for a cigarette at just the wrong time, and she spies the murderer exiting Lynette's cabin. Louise tries to use her newfound knowledge to blackmail the villains, but they have a more permanent solution in mind. What goes wrong then? Well, another character sees this murder take place. Instead of asking for blackmail, this witness wants to give the information to our detective, Hercule Poirot. What do the killers do then? Well, the same thing that worked for Louise should work here too. They eliminate this witness as well. These 4 events drive the plot for the last half of the novel. Now, on the face of it, this may seem like an extremely straightforward, even monotonous sequence of events. Someone sees, someone dies. Someone sees, someone dies. But the experience as you're reading it is not monotonous, and that's because you're not seeing the whole picture. You don't know why all of these characters are dying. Do they have information? Were they always intended to be victims, or perhaps were they accomplices to the initial murder itself? All of these questions, all of this intrigue make for a fascinating read, and they were created simply by Agatha Christie asking herself, what could go wrong for my villains? Okay, is this the only thing that can go wrong for your villain? Someone sees the crime? Nope, not by a long shot. Let's take a look at a story where what goes wrong for the villain takes a few different twists and turns, and that's an episode of Columbo called Dagger of the Mind. In this episode, 2 aging actors, Nick and Lily, are preparing to revive their failing careers with a magnificent production of Macbeth. Their production is being bankrolled by Sir Roger Havisham, who is putting up the cash because Lily's been putting the moves on him. When he discovers that her attentions were motivated by money and not love, he angrily confronts the couple, things get physical, and they accidentally kill him. The killers are in luck because no one knew that Sir Roger had come to London to see them. They quickly bundle him into his car and take his body home, along with all of his possessions, including his distinctive umbrella. More on this later. They arrange the body at the foot of the stairs as though Sir Roger had suffered a fatal fall. This is a narrative murder, a murder in which the villain tries to use the details of the crime to tell a story that explains the death. In this case, the narrative is that Sir Roger fell down the stairs. What goes wrong for the villains? Well, first, the narrative they were trying to create doesn't work. This death doesn't look like a fall to Columbo. Several details ring false. Sir Roger's glasses in his jacket pocket are unbroken, and the killer has arranged Sir Roger's book splayed open on his table as though he had put it down suddenly in his haste to go downstairs. This doesn't make sense because they've forgotten how meticulous he always was with his rare books. What do the villains do? They try to patch the narrative by supplying the police with a new story. Nick turns up at Sir Roger's estate looking for a rare book that he had supposedly loaned to the older man. When the butler can't find it, and neither can the police, they begin to think that perhaps Sir Roger was killed for this very valuable volume. What goes wrong then? Well, again, the narrative doesn't work, at least not with Columbo.
You don't think so?
No, I don't think so, because if he had killed Sir Roger and then moved the body in order to make it look like an accident, I mean, with all those beautiful things around, why would he just take one book, would you?
The killers are still on the hook, but they've got one ace up their sleeve. Sir Roger's visit to them is still a secret. That is, until the next thing goes wrong. They realize that they have lost control of an important piece of evidence. The villains realize that when they took Sir Roger's body to his estate, along with all of his possessions, they accidentally took a stagehand's umbrella instead of the one belonging to their victim. Sir Roger's distinctive umbrella is now in the stagehand's possession, and the stagehand's umbrella is at Sir Roger's estate. They need to retrieve both umbrellas before this important detail is discovered by the cops and blows apart their story about not having seen Sir Roger on the fateful day. They manage to get both umbrellas back, but again, something else goes wrong, which is that someone gets suspicious. In order to recover the stagehand's umbrella, they had to question Sir Roger's butler about its whereabouts, and he has put 2 and 2 together and deduced their guilt. He indicates that a sizable bribe would be enough to keep him quiet, but like the villains in Death on the Nile, these killers prefer a permanent solution. The villains have now tied up all of their loose ends, and they're in a situation that very frequently happens at the end of Columbo episodes. Columbo is onto them, but he has no hard evidence. So, what goes wrong then? It's something that very often happens at the end of a good mystery. The villains fall for a trap set by the sleuth. Columbo knows that all he has to do to seal the villain's fate is to tie Sir Roger to the theater on the day of his death. Since the villains have always insisted they never saw him, a conclusive link here would prove them to be liars in a way that can't simply be explained away. To establish a link between a character and a location in a mystery, we generally do one of two things. We have the character leave something behind at that location, or we have the character take something with them. Trouble is, Sir Roger didn't leave anything, and he didn't take anything either. However, if Columbo can convince the killers that he did, maybe he can get them to confess. And that is exactly what he does. He's already figured out that Lily's necklace broke during the struggle with Sir Roger, and he plants a single pearl inside Sir Roger's umbrella, suggesting that it must have fallen there while the umbrella was propped against the wall drying. It's a lie, but it convinces Nick, and the confession that Columbo needs comes tumbling out. Thinking about what went wrong for your villain can be the key to creating a delightful game of cat and mouse between your villain and your sleuth. If you want more ideas for the sorts of things your villain can do to stay one step ahead of the law, you might want to check out this video next. It's all about your villain's cover-up, that is, his strategy for getting away with murder.